So C-27 seeks to amend federal pension legislation, and this is the pension law in Canada that impacts federally regulated employers in Canada. So that's things like crown corporations, airlines, banks, telecommunications, rail, things that cross provincial borders. These are all regulated by the federal government. So if those employers choose to have a pension plan at work, they have to follow the federal pension rules. So it's federal legislation that C-27 seeks to amend. And in a nutshell, what it is doing is introducing something called a target benefit plan to the federal landscape. So in the traditional pension world, we think of a pension plan being a defined benefit plan, and that is exactly what it sounds like. It's a plan that says you will receive X amount in retirement. There will be some kind of formula there. As I said, once an employer makes a defined benefit promise to a worker, it's considered a legal obligation that the employer then has to follow through on. Of course, pension funds are invested in the stock market, and things in the stock market don't always go as planned. Sometimes we have better returns than expected, and sometimes we have lower returns than expected. As you know, we've seen recently in the financial crisis of 08-09, pension funds, generally expect to earn somewhere between 5 and 6% a year from the stock market, and that during the downturn they earned about -15% that year. So they were behind where they needed to be. But at the same time, we had this law that said you've made a pension promise, you can't just back away from it because you had a bad year in the markets. So the law actually requires employers to put a little bit more money into the plan to make up for the bad year. The target benefit plan is the complete opposite of this. In a target benefit plan, you don't have contribution levels that can go up and down. You basically have an employer who says, we're going to put X% of payroll into this plan. We're going to pay 8, 9% of payroll, whatever they agree to, into the plan. And then whatever benefits that can fund, that's what you get. So we're going to have a target. That's why it's called a target plan. So we're going to have a formula. We're going to say, we hope that our 9% commitment can deliver this formula. In the event that we hit another 2008, the solution is not going to be employer put more money into the plan. The solution is going to be cut benefits to plan members, active members and retired plan members. So C-27 seeks to, we have defined benefit plans in the federal jurisdiction now, many of them. C-27 seeks to introduce target benefit plans to the federal scene, but it's doing so in a very extreme and controversial way. What the bill does is it allows an employer who currently offers a defined benefit plan to their members, to their workers, to establish alongside the DB plan a new target benefit plan. On day one, the target benefit plan will have no members. Then the employer can go to all the DB pension plan members who are currently in the defined benefit plan and ask for their individual consent to, and this is the language the bill uses, to surrender their claim to a legal guaranteed pension that they've been promised in the DB plan and exchange it for a pension that can be subject to legal reduction in the target benefit plan. So there's this individual consent mechanism in the bill. The bill also says if there's a trade union present, the trade union may give consent on behalf of all of its members. Our read on this is that this could be tabled by an employer in collective bargaining as a collective bargaining proposal that the union give consent to surrender and exchange their pension for all of the active members and have this be subject to strike lockout provisions. So an employer could go to a federally regulated workforce and say, we're going to lock you out until all of you active members give your consent to let go of that guarantee that we told you was a guarantee for so many years and exchange it for something that's reducible, that we can reduce without limit and you have no legal recourse. And they can starve a union out. This is an employer dream to have this ability, right? I would like to write off my mortgage. I can't. I live in the real world where people make a deal, make an obligation, and follow through on it. But the government is trying to change that for employers, and I think this is offensive.
Individual workers in a non-union shop that have a pension. There's nothing in this legislation that I can see that stops an employer from making these changes a condition of employment. So they can come up to workers individually, pull them aside, and say, hey, we're changing the pension plan. We need you to take this plan going forward because otherwise we can't offer you employment. You know, they can do that as far as I read this. So the question of consent it's not as simple as just telling people that to say no to this and resist this, because they will come in with slick talking people to convince you that this is actually the best thing for you.
If I was a retiree in a defined benefit plan where the active membership was overwhelmingly unionized, I would be terrified of C-27. This legislation could pass and all the active members could be forced through an employer lockout to basically choose between feeding their family or keeping their DB pension guarantee. And if they eventually choose they want to keep their heat on and feed their family, they might give up their DB guarantee. And then you're going to be a retiree in a pension plan that has no active members. And that's going to pose challenges to the security, to the ongoing security of your pension as well.
Now, I can really envision a situation where existing retirees, yeah, you might ask yourself, why would you ever agree to give up your defined benefit pension plan? But what if you now have somebody coming to you saying, look, your pension's in big trouble. We're going bankrupt. We can't afford this. You're going to end up like Nortel. This is the best way to save your pension. They're not going to come to you and tell you the truth about this, frankly.
Everyone I tell C-27 stories to, they're just blown away by this basic principle that the Trudeau Liberal government wants to make pension promises retroactively negotiable. Trudeau made very clear promises about this before the election. This was actually legislation that the Harper government looked at in 2014. This is essentially Stephen Harper's pension legislation that Justin Trudeau has picked up off the shelf and is running with. Harper consulted on this widely. The labor movement and the retiree groups told them not to go ahead. They are doing it anyway. Trudeau was asked about this before the election because everyone knew Harper was looking at this, so we were thinking, what's Trudeau going to do? Some of the retiree groups were able to get a commitment from Justin Trudeau in writing saying, you know, I have the quote here. He says, any changes to DB plans should be made on a go-forward basis only. DB plans which have already been paid for by workers and pensioners should not retroactively be changed into target plans. Very clearly saying he's against precisely what C-27 is doing. He says, I was relieved Harper didn't go ahead with this. It's wrong in principle. It's an unacceptable thing to do. Now, inexplicably, they are moving forward with it. They did not campaign on this. It's not in their platform. They said they were going to improve the retirement security of Canadians.
Let's be clear here. This government so far has been very good at least making a show of consulting with the labor movement, of consulting with interest parties on everything. And in fact, it's the things that they don't want to do that they consult the most about, right? Don't want to do it? We'll have a consultation. Oh, we need to consult more. We'll keep talking. We're still hearing from people, right? Well, this is a massive change for pensions in this country. There was zero consultation with the labor movement. There was zero consultation with anybody who actually has a stake in this. Zero. That should tell us lots about what this is. It is a major attack on pensions in this country. And it's not just going to stop with C-27. Pensions across the board are under attack in this country, and we need to stand up and fight back. And this government needs to get a message right now. And that message isn't just that we're opposed to this. They know we're opposed to this. They don't care. They're waiting to see what we're going to do about it. They want to see what we're going to do to actually stand up and fight back on this. If you're a union member or a retired union member, call your union, ask them what they're doing about this. And more importantly, ask them what you can do to help. We need a big pushback coming from all sections of the labor movement. And finally, I think we really need to go after the Liberals for their dishonesty on this one. I mean, Justin Trudeau was very clear that this was off limits when he ran. And I mean, there are some other big questions to ask here too. There's a company called Morneau Chappell, and part of what they do is manage the transition to target benefit plans. Now, if a guy named Morneau introducing this bill, who, yeah, is the same guy, doesn't raise all kind of alarm bells, you really need to take a step back and look at this. Because the plan that the Liberals are pushing here is a massive attack on pensions. They're hoping they could catch us asleep. They're hoping we maybe wouldn't notice. They're hoping we would listen to their talking points about the consent and this is, you want to improve pensions. Don't fall for it. It's garbage. It's more liberal lies. We've seen this again and again and again. It's run from the left, governed from the right. This is the same show that's been playing in this country for a long time. We need to stand up, say, no way, not this time. You're not fooling us. You're not stealing our pensions. We're going to fight back.